Hello and welcome. In this video we will learn about Cleopatra. Cleopatra was one of the most famous queens in history. She lived a long time ago, more than 2,000 years ago, in a country called Egypt. She was not only a queen but also a strong, smart, and brave woman. Her full name was Cleopatra VII, and she was the last queen of ancient Egypt. People around the world still talk about her because of her beauty, intelligence, and powerful life. Cleopatra was born into a royal family. She became queen when she was very young. At that time, Egypt was a rich and important country. But it had many problems. There were fights inside the royal family, and other powerful countries wanted to control Egypt. Cleopatra had to face all these problems and protect her land and her people. Even though Cleopatra was young, she was very clever. She could speak many languages, including Egyptian, Greek, and others. She loved learning and reading books. She studied science, politics, and art. People said she was not only beautiful on the outside but also smart in her mind. She used her brain to solve big problems and make strong decisions. Cleopatra was also a great leader. She met two of the most powerful men in Roman history, Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. These men were leaders of Rome, the biggest empire at that time. Cleopatra worked with them to help Egypt. Many stories, plays, and movies have been made about her life and her relationships with these men. But Cleopatra was more than just a queen who loved famous men. She was a woman who wanted to keep her country free and strong. She worked hard to protect Egypt from Roman control. Even when things were difficult, she never gave up. She showed the world that a woman could be as powerful as any king. Cleopatra's life was full of love, war, dreams, and courage. She was not perfect, but she was real. Her story teaches us to be brave, to believe in ourselves, and to fight for what we think is right. Cleopatra lived long ago, but her name is still remembered today. She is a symbol of power, intelligence, and strength. In this episode, you will learn about her amazing journey. You will hear how a young girl became a great queen. You will discover how she used her mind, her voice, and her heart to lead a country during hard times. Cleopatra's story will inspire you to believe that anyone, no matter where they come from, can become great. So, let's begin the story of Cleopatra, the queen who ruled with her mind, her courage, and her heart. Chapter 1: The Birth of a Queen. A long time ago, in the year 69 BC, a baby girl was born in the city of Alexandria, Egypt. Her name was Cleopatra. She was born into a royal family called the Ptolemies. This family came from Greece, not Egypt, but they ruled Egypt for many years. Cleopatra's full name was Cleopatra VII Philopator. She would grow up to become one of the most famous queens in history. Cleopatra's father was King Ptolemy XII. He was the ruler of Egypt when she was born. Cleopatra's mother is not known for sure, but many people believe she was also from the royal family. Cleopatra had brothers and sisters. In those days, royal children often had to fight to keep their power, even against their own family. From the time she was a little girl, Cleopatra lived in a grand palace. She had servants, teachers, and guards around her. But her life was not always easy. Egypt had many problems. The government was weak, and Rome, a powerful empire, wanted to take control of Egypt. Cleopatra saw all these things as a child. She knew she had to be strong and smart to survive. Cleopatra was not just a normal princess. She loved learning. She studied languages, science, history, and politics. She could speak many languages, some say up to 9. Most of the Ptolemy kings and queens spoke only Greek, but Cleopatra also spoke Egyptian. This helped her connect with her people. She loved Egypt and wanted to understand her country deeply. Even as a young girl, Cleopatra showed signs of leadership. She listened carefully to her teachers. She watched how her father ruled the kingdom. She asked many questions and wanted to know everything. She did not want to be just a princess. She wanted to be a queen. When Cleopatra was about 18 years old, her father died. Before he died, he said Cleopatra and her younger brother should rule together. At that time, it was common in Egypt for a brother and sister to become king and queen. So, Cleopatra became queen at a young age. Her brother was only 10 years old. Cleopatra's journey as queen was not easy. There were many people who did not want her to have power. But she did not give up. From the very beginning, she showed courage and intelligence. She wanted to lead Egypt with her heart and her mind. The story of Cleopatra begins with the birth of a girl who would become a queen. A girl who loved her country, who loved to learn, and who was ready to face the world. She was born into a world of power and danger, but she would grow up to rule with strength and wisdom. This is the beginning of Cleopatra's great journey, the birth of a queen. Chapter 2. Dynasty of the Ptolemies. Before Cleopatra became queen, Egypt was ruled by a family called the Ptolemies. This family did not come from Egypt. They came from Greece. The first king of the Ptolemy family was Ptolemy I. He was a general in the army of Alexander the Great, the famous Greek leader. After Alexander died, Ptolemy took control of Egypt and became its ruler. This happened in 305 BC. The Ptolemies ruled Egypt for almost 300 years. They lived in the great city of Alexandria. This city was very important. It had the biggest library in the world and many smart people, scientists and writers. The Ptolemies built beautiful temples and palaces. They made Egypt rich and powerful, but they also had many problems. The Ptolemy kings and queens often fought with each other. Brothers and sisters wanted the throne, and sometimes they even tried to kill each other to get power. Families were divided, and many rulers did not think about the people. They only wanted to stay in control. Most of the Ptolemies spoke Greek, not Egyptian. They kept their Greek customs and did not mix much with the Egyptian people. But Cleopatra was different. She wanted to learn the Egyptian language and understand the local culture. She was the first in her family to truly try to be an Egyptian ruler, not just a Greek one in Egypt. During the time of the Ptolemies, Egypt was not always safe. Rome, a strong empire from the west, was growing more powerful. The Roman leaders wanted to take over Egypt because it had gold, food, and a good location. The Ptolemy kings had to deal with this danger. They tried to be friendly with Rome, but sometimes they had to pay money or follow Roman orders. Cleopatra's father, Ptolemy XII, was one of the last kings in the Ptolemy dynasty. He was not a strong ruler. He had to borrow money from Rome and even had to leave Egypt for some time. People in Egypt were not happy with him. There were protests, and the country was in trouble. Even though the Ptolemies were rich, they were also weak in their final years. The family lost the trust of the Egyptian people. But Cleopatra saw all this as a chance to be different. She wanted to be a better ruler. She wanted to fix what the Ptolemies had done wrong. Cleopatra was the last ruler of the Ptolemy family. After her, Egypt became a part of the Roman Empire. But while the dynasty lasted, it gave the world many stories of power, beauty, learning, and fighting. This chapter helps us understand where Cleopatra came from. She was born into a royal family with a long history. But she also saw the problems in her family's rule. That is why she worked hard to become a queen the people could love. The dynasty of the Ptolemies shaped her life and the future of Egypt. Chapter 3. Cleopatra's Rise to Power. When Cleopatra was 18 years old, her father, King Ptolemy XII, died. Before his death, he said that Cleopatra should rule Egypt with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. He was only 10 years old at that time. In Egypt, it was common for brothers and sisters to rule together as king and queen. But Cleopatra was older, smarter, and ready to lead. At first, Cleopatra and her brother ruled together. But soon, there were problems. The people around her brother did not like Cleopatra. They wanted the young king to rule alone. They were afraid of Cleopatra's power and intelligence. So, they made plans to remove her from the throne. Cleopatra had to leave the palace and the city of Alexandria. She lost her crown and had no army. Many people would give up at this point, but Cleopatra did not. She was strong and brave. She believed that she could get her throne back. She started making plans to return and rule Egypt again. At the same time, a great Roman leader named Julius Caesar came to Egypt. He wanted to stop the fighting between Cleopatra and her brother. Rome had power over many places, and Egypt was important to them. Caesar came to help, but also to make sure that Egypt stayed friendly with Rome. Cleopatra saw a chance. She decided to meet Julius Caesar and ask for his help. She could not enter the palace through the front door, so she found a clever way. She wrapped herself in a carpet and had her servant carry her to Caesar. When the carpet was opened, Cleopatra appeared before him. Caesar was surprised and impressed by her courage and beauty. Cleopatra talked to Caesar and told him her story. He liked her confidence and believed she should be queen. With Caesar's help, Cleopatra returned to power. A war followed between her supporters and her brother's army. In the end, Cleopatra won, and her brother died. Now, Cleopatra was queen again. She also married another younger brother, Ptolemy XIV, but she was the real ruler. She made her own decisions and led Egypt with strength. She also had a son, whom she named Caesarion. Many people believe Julius Caesar was the father. Cleopatra was now more powerful than before. She ruled a great country and had the support of Rome. But she did not forget the hard times. She remembered how people tried to take her crown. She knew she must always be wise and careful. Cleopatra's rise to power was not easy. She lost her throne, lived in danger, and faced many enemies. But she used her brain, courage, and charm to win back her crown. She showed the world that a young woman could be a great queen. This chapter tells how Cleopatra became the strong ruler of Egypt. Her story teaches us that with courage and smart thinking, we can rise even when we fall. Cleopatra's journey had just begun. Chapter 4. Meeting Julius Caesar. After Cleopatra lost her throne, she needed help to get it back. Her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, and his advisors had taken full control of Egypt. Cleopatra had to leave the royal palace and escape from the city. But she did not give up. She was waiting for the right time to return. At that same time, a powerful Roman leader, Julius Caesar, came to Egypt. He was one of the most important men in Rome. Caesar came to Alexandria to stop the fighting between Cleopatra and her brother. He also wanted to collect money that Egypt owed to Rome. He stayed in the royal palace, where Ptolemy XIII also lived. Cleopatra knew this was her chance. She had to meet Caesar and talk to him face to face. But it was very dangerous. The palace guards would not let her in. If her enemies saw her, they might arrest or hurt her. So, Cleopatra made a clever plan. She asked one of her loyal servants to help her. She hid herself inside a rolled-up carpet. The servant carried the carpet into the palace and brought it to Caesar's room. When Caesar opened the carpet, Cleopatra came out in front of him. He was surprised and very impressed. Cleopatra spoke to Caesar with confidence. She told him about her brother and how he took the throne from her. She said she wanted peace in Egypt and to be a fair queen for her people. Caesar listened to her carefully. He was amazed by her courage, beauty, and intelligence. Julius Caesar decided to help Cleopatra. He told both Cleopatra and Ptolemy XIII to stop fighting and rule together again. But Ptolemy's advisors did not want to share power. They started a war in Alexandria. This was known as the Alexandrian War. During the war, Caesar and Cleopatra stayed strong. They fought together. Finally, Caesar's army won the battle. Ptolemy XIII died during the war. Cleopatra became queen once again. After the war, Cleopatra ruled Egypt with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIV, but she was the true leader. She also grew close to Julius Caesar. They spent time together, and many people believe they fell in love. Later, Cleopatra had a son named Caesarion. Many believe Caesar was his father. Cleopatra visited Rome with her son and stayed in Caesar's house. Some Roman people did not like this. They did not want a foreign queen in their city. But Caesar did not care. He continued to support Cleopatra. The meeting with Julius Caesar changed Cleopatra's life. It helped her return to power and lead her country once again. She used her intelligence and bravery to protect her future. This chapter shows us how Cleopatra met one of the most powerful men in history. She took a big risk, but it helped her win back her crown. Her meeting with Caesar was the start of a new chapter in her life, one filled with hope, strength, and power. Chapter 5: The Queen in Rome. After Cleopatra became queen again, she ruled Egypt with strength and wisdom. But her story did not stop there. Cleopatra had a close relationship with Julius Caesar, the powerful Roman leader who helped her win back her throne. Soon, she gave birth to a baby boy and named him Caesarion, which means Little Caesar. Many people believed that Julius Caesar was the father. In 46 BC, Cleopatra and young Caesarion went to Rome to visit Julius Caesar. This was a big moment. It was very rare for a foreign queen to come to Rome. Cleopatra stayed in a beautiful house that Caesar owned. It was near the center of the city. She brought with her many servants, treasures, and gifts from Egypt. The people of Rome were surprised to see her. Some Romans were amazed by Cleopatra. They said she was beautiful, intelligent, and charming. Others did not like her. They thought she was dangerous. They did not want a queen from another land to become close to their leader. Rome was a republic, and many people feared that Caesar wanted to become a king with Cleopatra by his side. Even with the mixed feelings, Caesar showed Cleopatra great respect. He placed a statue of her in a temple in Rome. This was a great honor. It showed that he accepted her not only as a queen but also as someone important in his life. While in Rome, Cleopatra watched and learned. She studied Roman life, laws, and politics. She met many Roman leaders and saw how they ruled. Cleopatra was not just visiting for love, she was also learning how to be an even better ruler for Egypt. But soon, something terrible happened. In 44 BC, Julius Caesar was killed by a group of Roman men who were once his friends. They thought he had too much power. They did not want him to become a king. On the day he was killed, Cleopatra was still in Rome. After Caesar's death, everything changed. Cleopatra knew it was not safe to stay in Rome. She quickly returned to Egypt with her son Caesarion. Her time in Rome had ended, but it left a big mark on history. Cleopatra's visit to Rome showed her strong character. She walked into a city full of danger and fear but did not hide. She stood beside the most powerful man in the world and proved that she could be his equal. She also protected her son and her country. The queen in Rome was more than a guest. Cleopatra showed that she was not afraid to face a new world. Her time in Rome was short, but it was full of meaning. It was a step in her journey, a journey of courage, love, and leadership. This chapter tells us how Cleopatra, the queen of Egypt, walked with pride in the heart of Rome and faced both love and loss with strength. Chapter 6: The Death of Caesar. Cleopatra was in Rome with her young son Caesarion. She stayed in a grand house given by Julius Caesar, the most powerful man in Rome. Caesar and Cleopatra were close. Many people believed that Caesarion was his son. Cleopatra hoped to stay in Rome peacefully and protect her child's future. But not everyone in Rome liked Caesar or his friendship with Cleopatra. Some Roman leaders were afraid of Caesar. They thought he wanted to become a king, and Rome had no kings. Rome was a republic, and the people wanted to keep their freedom. They also did not trust Cleopatra. They believed she had too much influence over Caesar. Many felt that a foreign queen should not have power in their city. On March 15, 44 BC, something terrible happened. This day is known as the Ides of March. Julius Caesar went to a meeting at the Roman Senate. A group of men, including some of his friends, were waiting for him. These men had made a secret plan to kill him. They believed that by killing Caesar, they would save Rome. When Caesar entered the building, the men came close. Suddenly, they took out knives and attacked him. Julius Caesar was stabbed many times and died on the floor of the Senate. It was a shocking and sad moment in history. When Cleopatra heard the news, she was heartbroken and afraid. Without Caesar, She had no protection in Rome. Many people in the city were angry and confused. Cleopatra knew it was not safe to stay. She quickly left Rome and returned to Egypt with her son. Back in Egypt, Cleopatra was in a difficult position. Caesar was dead, and no one knew who would rule Rome next. There were fights between Caesar's supporters and his enemies. Cleopatra watched closely from Egypt, waiting to see who would win. She needed a strong Roman ally to protect her and her son. Even though Caesar was gone, Cleopatra's dream for her son was not. She wanted Caesarion to be seen as the true son of Caesar. She hoped that one day, he could be king not only of Egypt but maybe of Rome too. But she had to be careful. Many people in Rome did not want Caesar's child to have power. The death of Caesar was a turning point in Cleopatra's life. She had lost a powerful friend and partner. Now, she had to lead Egypt alone. But Cleopatra did not give up. She stayed strong for her country and her child. This chapter tells us how the death of one man changed the life of a queen. Cleopatra faced fear and danger, but she stayed brave. She returned to Egypt, ready to continue her journey as a leader. The story of Cleopatra and Caesar had ended, but a new chapter in Cleopatra's life was about to begin. Chapter 7. The Romance with Mark Antony. After the death of Julius Caesar, Cleopatra returned to Egypt with her son Caesarion. Egypt was peaceful for a time, but Rome was full of problems. There were many leaders fighting for power. One of the strongest of them was Mark Antony, a brave and famous Roman general. He had worked with Caesar and was now one of the rulers of Rome. A few years later, in 41 BC, Mark Antony called Cleopatra to meet him in the city of Tarsus. He wanted her help and support in the Roman civil war. Cleopatra agreed to meet him, but she wanted to make a great impression. She arrived on a golden boat with purple sails. She wore beautiful clothes, gold jewelry, and looked like the Egyptian goddess Isis. Musicians played music, and servants followed her. Everyone who saw her was amazed. When Mark Antony saw Cleopatra, he was surprised and impressed. She was not only beautiful but also very clever. She spoke many languages and knew much about politics, history, and science. Mark Antony liked talking with her. They laughed, shared ideas, and enjoyed each other's company. Soon, their friendship became a romance. Mark Antony followed Cleopatra back to Egypt. They spent a lot of time together in Alexandria. They had fun, celebrated festivals, and even dressed as gods in public. They trusted each other and made plans for the future. Cleopatra gave birth to twins, a boy named Alexander Helios and a girl named Cleopatra Selene. Later, she had another son named Ptolemy Philadelphus. These children were part of Cleopatra's dream. She wanted to build a strong family and a powerful kingdom. Mark Antony gave Cleopatra lands and titles. He said that their children would one day rule parts of the Roman world. This made many people in Rome very angry. They believed Antony was giving away Roman land to a foreign queen. Back in Rome, another leader, Octavian, later called Augustus, was watching closely. He was Caesar's adopted son and did not like Antony's relationship with Cleopatra. He told the Roman people that Cleopatra was trying to control Antony and steal power from Rome. The Romans began to see Cleopatra as a threat. But Cleopatra and Antony stayed together. They believed in their love and their plan. They ruled their lands and lived like a royal family. They also prepared for a war against Octavian. The romance between Cleopatra and Mark Antony was not just about love. It was also about power, politics, and dreams of a great empire. Together, they tried to build a future for their children and their people. This chapter shows how Cleopatra found love again with a strong Roman leader. Their bond was full of hope and happiness, but also danger. Cleopatra's story with Antony became one of the most famous love stories in history. A story of passion, power, and two people who stood together against the world. Chapter 8. The Battle of Actium. Cleopatra and Mark Antony were now partners in love and power. They ruled large parts of the East and had big dreams. They wanted their children to become kings and queens of many lands. But in Rome, a strong enemy was rising. His name was Octavian. He was Julius Caesar's adopted son and wanted to rule all of Rome. Octavian saw Cleopatra and Antony as a danger to his power. The people of Rome were told that Antony had become weak because of Cleopatra. Octavian said Antony had forgotten Roman values and was giving land to a foreign queen. Many Romans believed him. Soon, a war between Octavian and Antony began. This was not just a Roman war. It was also a war between the East and the West, between Cleopatra and Octavian. The final and most important fight happened at Actium, a place near the sea in Greece. It was the year 31 BC. Antony and Cleopatra had many ships and a strong navy. Octavian also had a large army and many warships. Both sides were ready for battle. Cleopatra stayed close to Antony during the battle. She brought her own Egyptian ships to help him. They waited at sea, ready to fight. But things did not go well for Antony and Cleopatra. Many of their soldiers were tired and hungry. Some of their allies left them. Octavian's army was better prepared and better trained. During the battle, Cleopatra saw that things were going wrong. She was afraid that all would be lost. So, she gave the signal for her ships to leave the battle and return to Egypt. When Antony saw Cleopatra's ships sailing away, he became confused and worried. He left the fight and followed her. This was a big mistake. Without their leaders, Antony's army lost. Octavian won the Battle of Actium. It was a great victory for him and the beginning of the end for Cleopatra and Antony. After the battle, Cleopatra and Antony returned to Egypt. They were sad and knew that Octavian would come after them. Their dream of ruling a great empire together was now broken. Still, Cleopatra did not give up. She made plans to protect her children and her country. She hoped to speak to Octavian and make peace. But Octavian wanted full control. He now ruled Rome, and he would soon come to Egypt. Cleopatra and Antony were trapped. Their armies were gone, and their future was dark. The Battle of Actium was not just a fight on the sea. It was the turning point in Cleopatra's life. It ended her dream of power and changed the history of Egypt forever. This chapter tells us how one battle decided the future of two great leaders. Cleopatra fought with strength and heart, but sometimes, even queens lose battles. What mattered most was her courage to try, even when everything was against her. Chapter 9. The Fall of Alexandria. After losing the Battle of Actium, Cleopatra and Mark Antony returned to Alexandria, the capital of Egypt. They were sad, tired, and afraid. Their ships were destroyed, their soldiers were gone, and Octavian, the Roman leader, was coming to take over Egypt. Alexandria was once a strong and rich city. It had big libraries, beautiful buildings, and smart people. But now, the city was in danger. The people of Alexandria were worried. They knew that a Roman army would soon arrive at their gates. Cleopatra tried to stay strong. She wore her royal clothes and sat on her throne. She wanted her people to see her as a brave queen. Mark Antony was also in Alexandria. He felt like he had failed. He had lost the war and could not protect Cleopatra. Still, he stayed with her until the end. They both tried to prepare for what was coming. Cleopatra sent letters to Octavian. She asked to speak with him and hoped to make peace. She wanted to protect her children and her kingdom. But Octavian had already decided, Egypt would now belong to Rome. When Octavian's army reached Alexandria, it was clear that Egypt could not win. Mark Antony tried one last time to fight, but his soldiers gave up. They no longer believed they could win. Antony was heartbroken. He thought Cleopatra had died, so he fell on his sword. But Cleopatra was still alive. She found Antony and held him in her arms. He died beside her. Now Cleopatra was alone. She had lost her love, her army, and her kingdom. Octavian entered Alexandria as the winner. He met Cleopatra, but he did not hurt her. He planned to take her back to Rome as a prisoner. He wanted to show her in a Roman parade, as a symbol of his victory. Cleopatra could not accept this. She was a proud queen. She did not want to walk as a prisoner in front of Roman crowds. So, she made a decision. Cleopatra went to her room, dressed in her finest clothes, and sat on her golden bed. Then, as the story goes, she let a poisonous snake, called an asp, bite her. Soon after, Cleopatra died. With her death, Egypt fell. Octavian took control of Alexandria and the rest of the country. Egypt became a part of the Roman Empire. Cleopatra's children were taken to Rome. Caesarion, her oldest son, was killed, because Octavian saw him as a threat. The fall of Alexandria marked the end of Cleopatra's rule and the end of ancient Egyptian kings and queens. It was a sad moment, but also a powerful one. Cleopatra chose to die as a queen, not live as a prisoner. She showed the world that even in defeat, she had strength and pride. This chapter shows the final days of Cleopatra's life, full of courage, loss, and love for her land. Though Alexandria fell, her story lived on. Chapter 10: Legacy of Cleopatra. Cleopatra died more than 2,000 years ago, but her story is still remembered today. She was the last queen of ancient Egypt, and her life was full of love, power, and courage. Even after her death, Cleopatra's name lived on. People around the world continue to talk about her, write books about her, and make movies about her. This is called her legacy, the way she is remembered by history. Cleopatra was more than just a beautiful queen. She was smart, brave, and a strong leader. She spoke many languages, understood politics, and worked hard for her country. She tried to protect Egypt during a very difficult time. She faced powerful enemies like Octavian and still stood tall. Even when everything went wrong, she never gave up. This makes her a symbol of strength and courage. She was also a woman who ruled in a man's world. In ancient times, most rulers were men, and women were not often given power. But Cleopatra showed that a woman could be just as strong and clever as any king. She ruled with her heart and her mind. She made big decisions, led armies, and even stood up to the Roman Empire. Cleopatra's story has been told in many ways. The famous English writer William Shakespeare wrote a play called Antony and Cleopatra. In this play, she is shown as a passionate and powerful queen. Many films have also been made about her, showing her beauty and romance, but also her brains and bravery. In Egypt, Cleopatra is remembered with pride. She was the last pharaoh, and she tried to keep her country free. She cared about her people and her land. She was the only Ptolemaic ruler who learned the Egyptian language. That shows how much she wanted to be a true queen for her people. Today, Cleopatra is a symbol for many people, especially for women and girls. She shows that with knowledge, courage, and confidence, anyone can be a leader. She teaches us that even if we lose battles, we can still leave behind something powerful, our story. Her name is now a part of world history. She has been called the Queen of the Nile and the last pharaoh of Egypt. Her face appears in paintings, statues, coins, and more. She is remembered not only for her beauty, but for her bold choices and her great mind. The legacy of Cleopatra is not just about what she did in her life, but about how she made people feel. She made people believe in the power of a strong leader, no matter if they are a man or a woman. Her story is still told today, and it will continue to inspire people for many years to come. This final chapter reminds us that Cleopatra may be gone, but her spirit lives on, in books, in films, and in the hearts of those who believe in bravery, love, and the strength to lead. Vocabularies. 1. Pharaoh, noun. A king or queen who ruled ancient Egypt. 2. Throne, noun. The seat of a ruler, used to mean power or leadership of a kingdom. 3. Republic, noun. A country where people choose their leaders, and there is no king or queen. 4. Ally, noun. A friend or partner in war or politics who offers support. 5. Civil war, noun. A war between groups of people from the same country. 6. Legacy, noun. Something that is remembered or left behind after a person dies. 7. Symbol, noun. A sign or image that represents something else, like an idea or person. 8. Defeat, noun. A loss in a battle or a fight. 9. Empire, noun. A group of countries or areas ruled by one person or country. 10. Courage, noun. The ability to be brave and face fear, danger, or difficulty. Quiz questions. 1. What was the name of Cleopatra's royal family? 2. How old was Cleopatra when she became Queen of Egypt? 3. How did Cleopatra secretly enter Julius Caesar's palace? 4. What statue did Julius Caesar place in a Roman temple? 5. On which date was Julius Caesar killed? 6. What were the names of Cleopatra's twins with Mark Antony? 7. Where did the important sea battle between Antony and Octavian take place? 8. What did Cleopatra use to end her life? 9. What happened to Egypt after Cleopatra died? 10. What does the word legacy mean in Cleopatra's story? Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed learning with us. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends and family. Your support helps us grow and bring you more inspiring stories and easy English learning content. Do you have a topic you'd like us to cover in our next video? Maybe a famous person, an invention, or a country? Let us know in the comments or messages. We'd love to hear your ideas. You can find answers in the description. Thanks again, and keep learning with us. See you in the next video.